Nicholas was a star, a culinary comet blazing across the internet. His platform, food, his passion, eating, or so it seemed.
Millions watched me. Millions envied me. I was living the dream, one bite at a time.
Nicholas wasn't always famous. He started small, just a guy with a camera and a love for good food. His early videos were simple, honest. He was relatable, charming. People connected with him.
Then came the sponsors, the brand deals, the followers multiplied.
His content, once genuine, became staged. Calculated, his smile, once warm, now felt predatory. Nicholas was obsessed, not just with food, but with consuming, experiencing. He wanted it all. Every flavor, every sensation, every view, every like. He was insatiable.
I traveled the globe seeking out exotic delicacies. I ate live octopus in Japan, scorpions in China, fugu in Tokyo. Each more dangerous, more outrageous than the last.
Each video garnered more views, more followers, more fame. His content became about pushing boundaries, ignoring limits.
I ate things no sane person would touch, and my audience, they loved it. They were horrified, yet captivated. I was a train wreck they couldn't look away from.
Deep in a forgotten forest, Nicholas found himself at the edge of a clearing. He was there for a challenge. To eat a mythical mushroom said to grant eternal life. A local led him there, warned him. Nicholas, blinded by ambition, didn't listen.
In the center stood a figure, shrouded, androgynous, unsettling.
This was Noone, the guardian of the forest, the keeper of the mushroom. Nicholas, undeterred, approached. His eyes gleamed, not with hunger, but with avarice.
I've come for the mushroom.
His voice echoed through the silent trees. Noone didn't move, didn't speak. Nicholas, mistaking silence for acquiescence, reached for the prize. The mushroom pulsed. No one moved, a blur of motion. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound being the rustling of leaves in the wind. The air was thick with tension, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. Suddenly, a hand shot out, grasping Nicholas's wrist with an iron grip. The touch was cold, lifeless. It felt as though the very essence of life was being drained from him. Nicholas felt a chill race up his arm, spread through his body, like wildfire. It was an unnatural cold, one that seemed to seep into his very bones, making him shiver uncontrollably. He recoiled, fear finally registering in his mind. His eyes widened and a bead of sweat trickled down his forehead. The reality of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks.
"You seek to consume that which is not meant for you," the spectral figure intoned, its voice echoing through the forest like a death knell. "Now you shall know true hunger," it continued, its words dripping with malice. The darkness around them seemed to grow thicker, more oppressive.
The words hung in the air, a chilling prophecy that seemed to echo endlessly. The forest itself seemed to shudder at the utterance, as if it too feared the curse. Nicholas, shaken but defiant, scoffed at the curse. He refused to believe in such superstitions. He was a man of logic, of reason. Curses were nothing more than fairy tales to him. He left the clearing, the mushroom forgotten, at least for now. His mind was already moving on to the next adventure, the next piece of content he could create. He didn't believe in curses, he believed in content. He believed in himself. His confidence was unshakable, his determination unwavering. He was ready to face whatever came his way, but as he walked, a strange hunger began to gnaw at him. It was a hunger unlike anything he'd ever known. It wasn't just a physical hunger, it was something deeper, more primal. A hunger that seemed to consume him from the inside out. He clutched his stomach, his face contorted in distress. The realization dawned on him slowly, like a creeping shadow. This was no ordinary hunger, this was the unquenchable hunger. The hunger grew.
It consumed me.
It wasn't just food he craved.
It was everything.
Experiences, emotions, he devoured them all, leaving only emptiness in his wake.
His content became erratic, unhinged.
His once charming smile now stretched grotesque across his face.
His eyes, once filled with warmth, were now vacant, hungry.
His audience, initially intrigued, began to turn away.
He was no longer relatable, he was disturbing.
He alienated friends, family.
He pushed away anyone who tried to help.
He was spiraling, falling deeper and deeper into the abyss of his own making. He was lost in the curse, a slave to the hunger that gnawed at his soul.
One day, between bites, I saw it, my reflection. It was a moment that seemed to stretch on forever, a moment where time itself seemed to pause. I had been so consumed by my daily routine, by the endless cycle of survival, that I had forgotten to look at myself. Truly, look at myself. In the cold, unblinking eye of the camera lens, I saw a stranger staring back at me. It was as if the lens had stripped away all the layers of pretense, all the masks I had worn, and revealed the raw, unfiltered truth. The person I saw was not the person I thought I was.
He paused, a morsel of food halfway to his mouth. The realization was like a jolt, a sudden awakening from a long, deep slumber. He had been living in a haze, a fog of denial and distraction. But now, in this moment of clarity, everything became painfully clear. He stared, truly stared, at himself for the first time since the encounter in the forest. He saw it then, the truth that had been lurking in the shadows, waiting to be acknowledged. The reflection in the water was not just a physical image, but a reflection of his soul.
The hollowness in my eyes. It was a void, a deep, dark chasm that seemed to swallow all light. I had been running from it, hiding from it, but now there was no escape. The eyes are the windows to the soul, and what I saw in mine was a reflection of all the pain, all the suffering I had endured. The desperation etched on my face. It was a silent scream, a cry for help that had gone unheard for so long. The weight of my choices, the burden of my actions, all came crashing down on me. I had been so focused on the external, on the material, that I had neglected the internal, the spiritual, the ravenous hunger that had consumed me, body and soul. It was not just a physical hunger, but a hunger for something more, something deeper. I had been trying to fill a void that could never be filled with food or wealth or power. It was a hunger for meaning, for purpose, for connection.
He saw not a man, but a monster, his own creation, a creature driven by greed, by ambition, by an insatiable hunger that had consumed everything in its path. The reflection was a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions, of the path he had chosen. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The curse was real. It was not some abstract concept, but a tangible, living thing that had taken root in his soul. The weight of it was almost unbearable, a constant reminder of his failures, his regrets. He had brought this upon himself. Every choice, every action had led him to this moment. The isolation, the despair, the endless hunger. It was all a result of his own doing. He had no one to blame but himself. His greed, his ambition had driven him to accumulate wealth, to seek power, to dominate. But in the end, it had all been for nothing. The treasure, the gold, the power, it was all meaningless in the face of the emptiness that consumed him. His insatiable hunger had led him to this, a hunger that could never be satisfied, a void that could never be filled. It was a hunger that had consumed him, body and soul, leaving nothing but a hollow shell. And in that moment of clarity he realized that the only way to break the curse was to confront the monster within, to face the truth and seek redemption.
With a strangled cry, I swept my arm across the table, sending food, cameras, my phone clattering to the floor. I was trapped. The walls seemed to close in around me, the air thick with the scent of desperation. Every item that hit the ground felt like a piece of my sanity breaking away. I was no longer in control, a puppet to my own primal urges, my own body a prison. The confines of my flesh felt tighter with each passing second, a cage I could never escape. The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cell, the walls mocking my futile attempts at freedom. The hunger, a constant gnawing pain. I couldn't escape it. Not anymore. It was as if a beast lived inside me, clawing at my insides, demanding to be fed. Every moment was a battle, every second a struggle to maintain a semblance of control. The hunger was insatiable, a void that could never be filled.
He looked down at his hands, once used to craft delectable meals, now trembling claws. These hands, which had once brought joy and sustenance, were now instruments of his torment. The transformation was complete. The man he once was, lost to the abyss of his desires. He was no longer human. He was a monster, a cautionary tale. His reflection in the shattered glass showed a creature of nightmares, a being driven by insatiable hunger. The eyes that stared back were hollow, devoid of the spark of humanity, a testament to the perils of unchecked desire. His story, a grim reminder of what happens when one gives in to their darkest impulses. The warning signs had been there, but he had ignored them, and now he was paying the ultimate price.
And yet, amidst the horror, a strange sense of peace settled over me. Acceptance. In the eye of the storm, I found a moment of clarity. The chaos around me seemed to fade, replaced by a serene understanding of my fate. I had become what I feared most, but in that acceptance, I found a sliver of peace. I had made my choice. Every decision, every step had led me to this moment. There was no turning back, no undoing what had been done. The path I had chosen was clear, and I walked it with a heavy heart but a resolute mind. I had chosen this path. It was a road paved with my own desires and regrets, a journey that had transformed me in ways I could never have imagined. Each step echoed with the weight of my choices, a reminder of the man I once was and the monster I had become. And now, it was time to face the consequences. The final act in a tragic play, the culmination of my journey. There was no escaping the fate I had carved out for myself. The consequences were inevitable, and I was ready to meet them head-on.
He picked up a stray morsel from the floor, a final offering to the insatiable beast within. This small piece of food, insignificant to others, held the weight of his entire existence. It was a symbol of his struggle, his surrender, and his final act of defiance. This was his last bite, the culmination of his journey, the end of his struggle. As he took that final bite, he felt a strange sense of relief, a release from the torment that had plagued him for so long. His last act of defiance, his last video, a message to the world, a final testament to his journey. The camera captured his final moments, a record of his transformation and his ultimate surrender to the beast within. This was his story, his legacy, and his final goodbye. The video cut out abruptly. Silence. Nicholas was gone, vanished from the digital world he had so completely inhabited. His followers, initially concerned, then curious, then simply bored, moved on. The internet, after all, has a short memory, and an even shorter attention span. The forest, however, remembers. It whispers his name on the wind, a cautionary tale carried on the breeze, a reminder that some things once consumed can never be satiated. Nicholas, the boy who loved to eat, became Nicholas Eats Noone, not a name but a warning. Nicholas's story is a tragedy, a modern fable for the digital age. It speaks to the dangers of unchecked ambition, the insatiable hunger for fame, for recognition, for more. It warns us that the pursuit of our desires, if left unchecked, can consume us, leaving us hollow shells of our former selves. It reminds us that there is a price to be paid for everything, and sometimes that price is our very humanity. So the next time you find yourself scrolling through endless feeds, consuming content, remember Nicholas. Remember the boy who ate everything, and remember, sometimes it's okay to leave the table a little hungry.